Everyone, welcome to Peepo Coin channel. I hope you will subscribe by the end of this video. Do any of you guys recall this video? It's okay if you don't. In essence, Russia was confirming that they will introduce a gold-backed BRICS currency. In August, it will be discussed during the BRICS South Africa meeting. BRICS has received applications from numerous other nations. The de-dollarization process is speeding up. Well, this sounds interesting, you could remark now. Or, if you do recall, you are familiar with this video which shows that this was going back to 2023. The intriguing thing about this is that headlines about this BRICS currency have been around for years. Literally years. And everyone wants to know what the BRICS are really up to. What are they doing exactly? A more recent version of the video was uploaded yesterday. A huge shout-out goes out to Subjective Views Possess. According to a CIA agent, BRICS will soon introduce a gold-backed digital currency. Take a look at this. This is the CEO of Tether. Our expansion translates into a significant increase for the US dollar Gemini, which is working to counter the actions of the BRIC nations that genuinely desire a de-dollarized war. Fascinating. Give a more thorough explanation of how this might help the US dollar. Well, we're out there, constructing bodegas in Central South America and kiosks in Africa. The United States is absent from millions of touchpoints worldwide, therefore we are in villages in Africa, Central South America, and Asia, and we are actually teaching people how to handle a digital dollar there. Additionally, there is a strong pushback from British nations who wish to promote their own currencies if you are in these countries or areas. Or they'll introduce a gold-backed digital money shortly. In the emerging markets, they are also constructing infrastructure. Thus, the BRICS nations' intentions are quite clear. They repeated it several times. They prefer a weaker and less stable dollar. Their goal is to de-dollarize all of the local communities, and we are in opposition to that. We are the bastion that keeps hundreds of millions of consumers from experiencing it. Since we are providing excellent service, I believe that Tatar is the United States' best ally in that regard. So, listen, how would he know this specific information? What's more intriguing, though, is that we are aware that they have long been preparing to introduce this digital money that is backed by gold. Many referred to it as a CBDC, many referred to it as a stablecoin. When this will occur is unknown to us. We're not sure if it will occur. Although we are unsure of the specifics of the bricklayers' plans, we are certain that they are significant. All right, we are aware that their de-dollarization efforts have been on for a very long time. As you might imagine, we have been concentrating on it since March 2022. In addition, we received a significant executive order in the United States to investigate ACBDC at that period. That sort of moved to a stablecoin, but are they really that different in the end? Not precisely. Programmability is linked to both of them. Both of them are connected to control systems. Ultimately, a stablecoin and ACBDC are quite comparable, simply entirely different names. However, I will say this. He is discussing how the US currency might be saved via Tether. Actually, I would respond to that with ROUSD. We are aware that Ripple has been dominating the market and that for a very long time Ripple has been closely associated with these significant government organizations and agencies. We also know that Ripple has been making significant contributions to the institutional sector. Not to add that Ripple and the US Secretary of Treasury were discussing ways to use stablecoin efforts in the same room. Subjective Views, I believe, was the original poster of it. It was back here indeed. The US Department of the Treasury was involved in this. This is Nellie Liang, who works with Ripple and Stellar as the Undersecretary for Domestic Finance at the US Department of Treasury. This truly has to do with integrating stablecoins and CPC tokenization into the larger US banking system. And the overall goal of this is to modernize the US financial system. Tether, however, was absent. Actually, Circle was the only other reliable coin player present. That the CEO of Tether is stating that Tether is the best in its class in genuinely supporting the US financial system and the US dollar as a currency intrigues me. So why wouldn't they use Tether, you know? I understand why they choose not to use Tether, though. The reason for this is the regulatory scrutiny that Tether is subject to. However, in addition, the BRICS are a major emphasis from my perspective because they have played a significant role in GDP growth. Additionally, they have been hoarding enormous quantities of gold since at least 2008. In fact, we have BRICS against the dollar here. The BRICS countries aim to disrupt international trade, The USD's percentage of world commerce dropped from 88% in 2010 to 77% in 2023. The IMF is the source of this. BRICS countries' gold reserves have increased by 25%. There is talk of de-dollarization, but will it be successful? Keep a careful eye on gold and foreign reserves. The BRICS gold reserves are growing at this rate, and the de-dollarization movement is evident. This is essentially the end of the world for the US dollar, and it's happening in real time. However, how can we strengthen the dollar? How can we prevent this from turning into a major issue? It is, in fact, using stable currency. First place. The second is falling behind in terms of digital asset technology and digital currencies, and we're already beginning to see the big picture being created by actors like Congress, for instance. In other words, the Financial Services GOP recently enacted the Stable Act, which established a framework for stablecoin payments that will safeguard both consumers and innovators. In addition, there are statements on their intentions regarding this, which I already included in the film. However, the SEC just ruled that completely reserved liquid cryptocurrency stablecoins backed by the dollar are not securities. Thus, this is also taking place at the same time. As a result, the US is presently witnessing a significant acceleration of the push for stablecoins. And to sort of sum up what this actually means, we have for the SEC Governor, Miles Jennings, just issued great guidelines on stablecoins that make it obvious when they are exempt from securities rules. There are potential ramifications for decentralized stablecoins, even though the guidelines primarily address centrally issued stablecoins. The SEC's Howey and Reeves analysis in particular is readily applicable to decentralized stablecoins. This means that if decentralized stablecoins aren't promoted as investments and generally satisfy the guidelines requirements, they ought to likewise be exempt from securities regulations. It makes appropriate for the SEC to highlight how interest payments could transform stablecoins from consumer goods under the Howey and Reeves tests, especially when it comes to stablecoins that are issued and managed centrally. He goes on to add, however, that this does not imply that interest-paying decentralized stablecoins are inherently securities. He essentially explains this by explaining how the yield is generated in order to pay interest. Decentralized smart contracts, which aren't under anyone's direct control, handle everything. Howey is not satisfied with them. When there is no issuer generating funds, interest-paying decentralized stablecoins shouldn't meet Reeves' requirements either. If reserves are sufficiently financed to fully satisfy redemptions upon demand, or for the general use of a company enterprise or to finance significant investments. Furthermore, decentralization significantly lowers the risk associated with the stablecoin by removing authority over the reserve and smart contracts that support it. Therefore, I interpret the guideline as leaving open the possibility that the SEC does not consider that truly decentralized stablecoins, even those that pay interest, are subject to securities laws. Lastly, the guidance is generally in line with the Genius and Stable Act, which are now being considered by Congress. Both proposals forbid interest payments in order to guarantee that stablecoins are not financial products, which explains why they are exempt from securities regulations. Ultimately, the United States is beginning to accelerate frameworks centered around stablecoins because ultimately they likewise wish to incorporate stablecoins. In addition to supporting the US dollar overall, they hope to use stablecoins to maintain the US dollar as the reserve currency. It's a fight of technology. In the end, whomever prevails in this technological battle over digital currency and assets will benefit from the technology in the area. They will gain a lot. The United States is attempting to do this right since it will resemble Silicon Valley 2.0. The U.S. is attempting to advance this, and I believe that the U.S. will begin collaborating with some significant players in the field. Circle, Ripple, or Tether could be the culprits. We don't know, but I do know that Ripple has very, very important ties to the government of some sort. We are aware of Ripple's collaborations with the BIS,